Discover the gripping story of a biker's audacious defection to the Hells Angels, leaving behind his former allies, the Notorious Bandidos. This captivating narrative of devotion put to the strain and connections broken will help you unravel the labyrinth of betrayal, intrigue, and power battles that changed the Australian biker underground. The founding of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club's first two chapters in Australia, notably in the cities of Melbourne and Sydney, was a momentous development in 1975. Their ambitious expansion into the Australian criminal underworld began with this. The club didn't waste any time and soon established an empire by leveraging their infamous reputation and illegal operations. As the Hells Angels operations grew, they deftly incorporated legal revenue streams by utilizing respectable companies as a front to conceal their purportedly illegal riches. By employing this tactic, they were able to hide their criminal actions from view and appear more genuine to the police. However, the Hells Angels did not have complete authority over the biker community in Australia. Other motorcycle clubs were well represented and had a big impact on the scene. The Rebel MC was respected for having a wide-ranging network of chapters and members throughout the nation, making them the dominant power in the Australian biker scene. The Cherry MC was the largest rocker club in Australia. Another strong motorcycle club, the Bandidos MC, arrived in Australia in 1983 and opened its first chapter in Sydney. Notably, 11 former Comanchero MC affiliates made up the initial members, adding rivalry and stress to the developing drama. Today, with the Sydney biker scene having experienced a radical transformation, the club's power structures have been considerably weakened as a result of law enforcement apprehending influential members of the groups. In the meantime, Sydney's criminal underworld has remained under the control of the Hells Angels and grown stronger. The Hells Angels made a bold and risky step by publicly announcing their intention to establish the Fundamental Charter, another charter in the southern Sydney region of their competitor, the Rebel MC. Many believed that this daring operation was a direct reaction to their enemy's vulnerability as a result of police enforcement efforts. When rumors that a whole Rebel MC chapter had voluntarily switched allegiance to the Hells Angels surfaced, startling the motorcycle community and leading to a change in allegiances and loyalties, the situation became more tense. The club's ranks were further bolstered when Jason Fay, a well-known individual and former national president of the Bandidos MC, publicly announced his conversion to the Hells Angels. Throughout these developments, the authorities weren't passive. A specialized police unit conducted raids on July 5, 2023 at several places throughout Sydney, which resulted in the discovery of Hells Angels vests and a Bandidos jacket. This served as a blatant example of law enforcement's vigilance and readiness to respond in the event of confrontations. Despite the raids, it was thought that the Australian Hells Angels president had fled, but there was still speculation that he might still be in charge of the organization even from a distance. The Hells Angels had grown to be a potent presence in the Australian underworld by this point, with 7 charters in Sydney and its environs. Authorities were closely watching how this dramatic narrative would develop as the shifting dynamics of the biker scene raised the risk of additional bloodshed and unrest. These underworld titans' uncertain future was shaped by the rivalry between motorcycle gangs, the competition for domination, and the omnipresent threat of police enforcement. Law enforcement agencies stepped up their efforts to suppress organized crime operations in the Australian biker community, as hostility between the Hells Angels and their competitors, particularly the Rebel MC, increased. The Hells Angels attracted the attention of law enforcement organizations across the nation, because they are the biggest and most powerful motorcycle club in the world. The raids strongly implied to the biker community that law enforcement was keeping an eye on their activities and was prepared to take action to preserve the law and maintain public safety. The special task force known as Raptor's commanding commander referred to the operation as a warning in order to emphasize their dedication to combating organized crime in the biker community. The Australian underworld's dynamics continued to change as the Hells Angels consolidated their power through the recruitment of new members from competing organizations and the expansion of their influence internationally. The aftermath of the raids and Jason Fay's public defection from the Bandidos MC to the Hells Angels probably caused internal turmoil and probable divides among the remaining members of the Bandidos and the Rebel MC. Experts and officials couldn't predict how the conflict between the Hells Angels and its competitors would play out because the situation remained extremely unstable. The threat of a new chapter of violence and instability loomed, with the Hells Angels battling for power in Sydney, a critical area within the Australian underworld, and the rebel MC possibly gathering to defend their territory. Uncertainty was also increased by the shifting terrain of allegiances, as members of various clubs would reevaluate their connections in light of altering power relations and the perceived strength of each group. In order to avoid any widespread confrontations or criminal activity from growing, law enforcement agencies were constantly monitoring developments in Australia's biker community. The Hells Angels have chapters in more than 60 nations, which increased the potential impact of their choices and actions on the Australian setting. Even in the face of law enforcement scrutiny, they were a force to be reckoned with because of their capacity to get resources and assistance from their global network. In conclusion, the departures from rival organizations, the law enforcement actions, and the shifting power structures inside the Australian biker underworld made for a complicated and compelling narrative. Authorities were on a high alert due to the ongoing struggle for domination and control over criminal operations in Sydney and other cities, and it remained unclear how the biker community in Australia would develop in the future. It became clear that the conflict between the Hells Angels and its competitors, particularly the Rebel MC, was more widespread, as the motorcycle turf war in Australia continued to play out. These motorcycle clubs' international presence complicated the situation and attracted the attention of law enforcement organizations all over the world. To follow the movements and activities of the Hells Angels and its members, law enforcement authorities from many nations started exchanging intelligence and working together. These clubs' international nature made it difficult for local law enforcement to stop their criminal activities, since they could use the resources and assistance of their worldwide network. Innocent bystanders and other members of the public were at risk as the motorcycle conflict grew worse because of the potential for violence and criminal activity linked to the rival groups. Maintaining public safety while addressing the underlying reasons of the violence inside the motorcycle group was a challenge for the Australian government. The way the biker community was viewed by the general public affected how the story developed. Outlaw motorcycle clubs were given a larger-than-life image in the media, which added to the mystique and intrigue surrounding them by depicting them as engaging in risky and exciting activities. As a result, additional people joined or supported these clubs, continuing the cycle of violence and illegal activity. From enhancing the mystery and drama of the biker battle was the participation of those with a bad reputation, such as Jason Fay. The brazenness and audacity of the ongoing struggle were reflected by Faye's social media post declaring her allegiance to the Hells Angels with the slogan, "Ready to Rumble." The Hells Angels modified their strategies to evade capture and preserve their power, while law enforcement organizations kept trying to stop criminal activity. The police and motorcycle gangs were playing a game of cat and mouse, which added to the turbulence and unpredictability of the scenario. While the Rebel MC and other motorcycle clubs in various parts of Australia added to the complexity of the power struggle, the Hells Angels may have had a stronghold in Sydney. Each club fought to defend and enlarge its territory, which frequently resulted in territorial disputes and conflicts. Other criminal organizations hiding in the shadows of the biker community were also affected by the fight. The rise and consolidation of the Hells Angels may have disturbed pre-existing crime networks and alliances, causing changes in the criminal environment in Australia. The Australian police were faced with the difficult task of controlling any potential escalation of violence and criminal activity, while the motorcycle war continued to play out. In addition to addressing the underlying social and economic issues that contributed to the growth of organized crime, they sought to shut down the club's illegal enterprises. Finally, the Notorious Bandidos biker boss's conversion to the Hells Angels in Australia sparked a series of occurrences that fundamentally changed the country's motorcycle culture. The conflict between the Hells Angels and their adversaries, which was defined by law enforcement actions, territory conflicts, and defections, demonstrated the intricacy of the criminal underworld and its global repercussions. It was obvious that the decision would have significant repercussions for the motorcycle community and the larger criminal environment in Australia as law enforcement and the general public awaited the next chapter in this captivating drama. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel if you want to watch more videos like this.